announced building of 6 crore affordable homes, 2 crore in urban and 4 crore in rural India, right at the beginning of his speech which he presented in the parliament. And everyone awaited keenly to hear more, get more details on how these 6 crore homes were to be built. But nothing, absolutely nothing came after that. Not a single statement or a policy measure on who will make and deliver these 6 crore homes. So today on the Realty Debate, that's the question we are raising. Meet my panelists, Sriram Mahadevan, Head Affordable Housing, Mahindra Lifespace Developers, Madhusudan Menon, Chairman Micro Housing Finance Corporation. Here with me in the Delhi studio, David Walker, Executive Director, Sare Homes. We also have with us Arun Mishra, former Housing Secretary, Neeraj Bansal, Partner, Head Real Estate and Construction, KPMG, and of course, Raghav Garg, Director, Garg Group. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. I think, let's have a focused discussion on 4 or 5 key things. At what price can we call housing affordable? Let's just stick to that. That particular answer is what I'm seeking right now. At what price can we call housing affordable? Neeraj, start from there, because in-depth research done by KPMG. If I look at RBI's guidelines which have come this week, it says obviously 10 lakhs is the price. Is that what we will take?
So when you look at, from an affordable housing point of view, the people who are at the lower end of the segment, for them, they kind of monthly income, if you look at about 25 to 30% of what they can partake, that is what should be the maximum limit which should be there, and which gets them to somewhere around less than 10 lakhs as a number around that. When you look at people slightly on the higher income bracket over there, so 40%, if you take into account absolute value of 40% of what they're earning in the monthly side of it, that is what helps them to be able to service those EMIs, because you can take the loan, but how do you actually able to service that and carry out with your own domestic issues as well. Then the further aspect of it, one can take up to 50% as well, so but I think clearly when you look at the metros aspect of it, the housing will somewhere would come around, say, less than 50 lakhs is something which you would want to call, at least from an affordable perspective, for a mid-segment aspect of it. When you go towards to a tier 2 or tier 3 cities over there it will go down to other like sub 30 lakhs is a number which will come as like a more of an affordable housing side of it there.
So the 10 lakh figure which the Housing Ministry talks about, which RBI talks about, who's building those homes and how are they getting built? Arun Mishra, at least throw some light on that, because you've been part of the policy making. RBI has changed norms for 10 lakh rupee homes, but where are they getting built?
You see, when you talk about affordable housing, normally the calculation is that whatever is your annual income, 4 to 5 times is that which you can afford.
Okay.
So if my annual income is about say 2 lakh rupees, I am in a position to afford a house which is about 8 to 10 lakh rupees. That's where the definition of affordable housing comes in for the EWS category, particularly those people whose income is below 2 lakh rupees per annum.
Okay.
Secondly, when you look at a small town where the land cost is about 20 to 25% of the total building cost, and you look at 1600 to 2000 rupees as per square foot cost of construction, and you take a 400 square feet house, it comes to about 8 lakh rupees, and you add 2 lakh rupees for the land, it comes to about 10 lakh rupees.
Okay.
So these are the two things which we thought, which is which brings this figure of 10 lakh rupees into the picture. It's primarily for those economically weaker section people, and when you come to the LIG category, of course it becomes slightly higher. The second question that you raised is who are building these houses.
We'll come to that question later. I just want to say, okay, if you're going to focus our discussion on the 10 lakh category, or are we going to actually take it up to say, look, in tier 1 cities, even people who can afford a home of 50 lakhs and below can call it affordable housing. So that nomenclature itself is a big one to debate, because if I look at the figures in India, there are only 4% of the country's population which earns more than 5 lakhs of annual income. Imagine 96% of India earns less than 5 lakhs per annum. Sriram, it's a big data point which actually tells you that barring a very few developers, most developers are building for 4% in India currently. Am I correct?
Yeah, Manisha, I think the data point which you have referred to is quite correct. And we also, as Mahindra Lifespaces, till we ventured into affordable housing, we were also concentrating on the top 5% of the population. And that is where you see most of the inventory overhangs in most of the major cities. So there is this 95% of the population where the market is there, which is underserved. But at the same time, it should also we should also take cognizance as to why most of the developers are concentrating on the top of the pyramid rather than the bottom of the urban
Okay, we'll
pyramid.
come to that a little bit later. I know that there is a reason, but if you, when you ventured in affordable housing, Mahindra ventured into it, did you get into it thinking that, okay, we're going to build homes under 10 lakh, or did you think that affordable, that limit was 10 to 25? What pricing would you call affordable?
See, I think you have hit a very right point. Affordable is the most abused kind of terminology which is being used. When we started thinking about entering into this space, we actually set ourselves a target of entering this space between 5 to 15 lakhs. But as the ball started rolling, then we realized that possibly 5 to 15, 5 to 10 is becoming a bit of a challenge. And that's why we then shifted it to 10 to 20 lakhs. So we launched both these projects within the price bracket of 10 to 20 lakhs.
Okay, so you ventured into this space. First of all, everyone considers this as a very bold move. Mahindra and Tata's getting into affordable housing, and even you had to raise the benchmark. You had to say, look, 10 lakhs, 5 to 10 lakhs is not possible. 10 to 20 lakhs, maybe we can attempt. Raghav Garg, what would your affordable price limit be? What has your own experience been? What kind of pricing can you build affordable housing at?
So first of all, we launched a project at 4.5 lakh rupees, 30 kilometers to 40 kilometers from your studio.
Okay.
So we were sub 5 lakh category, that is 40 kilometers from central Delhi. And even till date, we sell our product as 7.5 lakh rupees. So we are maintaining that sub 10 lakh category in affordable segment. And our idea was initially, as Shriram has said, was 5 to 10 lakhs only. But that was 2008-9. Now we are sitting in 2015. The construction cost, the land cost, and everything else have gone up. So it's difficult to stick in that category, but we are still want to be as close as possible to 10 lakhs. So say you can say 12 lakh, 13 lakh, but we still want to remain in sub 15 lakh category.
All right.
The another point that I would like to mention is, first of all, for the first time we are talking about 4 crore rural houses. Up till now there was no discussion of rural housing itself. So that's a welcome step.
Okay.
And second thing, housing being a state subject, the lot needs to be done not by finance minister but by other ministries in together, so that state brings with bylaws that help affordable housing a reality.
All right. Okay, we'll get there in terms of what needs to be done to fix this. So now we're going to probably divide the debate between absolutely what you call affordable housing, which is 10 lakhs and below, or stretch it up to 20 in at least bigger cities, and above 20, let's not call it affordable. Let's just say that those are budget homes. Having said that, then your big question is, who are we building these affordable homes for? Who is the customer? I think that's a big question to ask. Neeraj, who's the customer for sub 10 lakh homes? Can the people that are being targeted for sub 10 lakh rupee homes actually afford to buy those sub 10 lakh rupee homes?
So when you look at the customer for this, this is basically the daily wage earners and the people who've got some regular income coming in. They are like people who have got some odd jobs that they're doing at the current time. So they have those incomes coming in, which is like Mr. Mishra also mentioned, like getting up to 2 lakh over there. But these are not people who've got very defined bank accounts till now. I mean, till the time this Jan Dhan Yojana was launched, and also that some of these incomes are not very regular incomes also around it. They are like doing small time businesses there.
Okay.
So business comes in, works come in there. They are able to accumulate some money, but not able to regularly save that much of money for, let's say, a down payment. And for them to obtain a microfinance, as well,
All right.
points a difficulty.
Okay, so that's why I haven't gone to Madhusudan for a particular reason. Madhusudan, we're saying that, okay, there is this whole pent-up demand for sub 10 lakh rupee homes. Now, if I look at the profile of the person who should be buying this 10 lakh rupee homes, there's hardly any bank who's willing to give loans to that category of people. Isn't that a big question mark as well? How will they get money to even buy a home which actually costs them 10 lakhs or below?
See, I totally agree with you because see, 90% of the demand that's there for the sub 10 lakh homes comes actually from people who do not have access to the financing at all. Because access to financing, like you were saying earlier, the houses are built for the top 5%. Also, the financing is also available only for the top 5%. So we need to make that start building that change where, you know, people without the full documentation for income, they have incomes. The only question is, you know, how do you use either technology or, you know, your conversations to make an assessment of what is a person's actual income, or you don't need to be precise, obviously, but you need to have some rough idea of what the income is. We are a company which does only this, where we are providing loans only to people who do not have the documentation.
Madhusudan Menon, affordable housing, a sum of 4,000 crores was allocated to National Housing Bank to increase the flow of cheaper credit for affordable housing, and this happened in the first maiden budget of the finance minister when he just come to power. Where has that credit gone? Has it reached anybody in the system?
Some of it has, but some of it hasn't.
Okay.
So it came with a lot of strings actually. By the time it flew through from the government to the NHB to the housing finance companies or to the banks, it came with many stringent conditions such as an on-lending cap, which said that if you were borrowing the money from NHB at 7.2 or 7.3%, you could not lend it onward to a customer at anything more than 9.8%. So they had defined a 2.5% spread. As a result of which, most housing finance companies and banks could not even access that money. So I suspect that a lot of that money did not even get spent because there were not too many claimants for it.
Arun Mishra, why would you, you know, it's a very high risk category loan, isn't it? When you're giving to people at that level, 2% it's okay to have that kind of a spread when you're giving to a very safe strata of society who have great repaying capacity. But to put that kind of a cap on what they can charge the end customer, was it necessary, and why was it necessary?
You see, when you talk about these extremely poor people, we handle this issue. It has to be a combination of some kind of a financial support by the government also, whether by way of capital subsidy or by way of interest subsidy. You might remember that we had also set up a trust which was guaranteeing the repayment to the banks.
Credit guarantee scheme.
The credit
and it happened
guarantee.
during Ajay Markan's time. What happened to that?
No, it happened during, it happened during that time. And the trust has already been established, the money has also been transferred, and the trust was supposed to active. This is basically to give some kind of a comfort to the banks and to the financial institutes to give loan to the people, to the poorest of the poor.
So are you saying that the banks are not using it and it's their problem and really not the government's problem then?
I think at that time when this trust was established during my time, so at that time we had kept a limit of 5 lakh rupees because we had done the calculation and we thought that maybe 5 lakh rupees is something, because our experience shows that, you know, most of the poor people, if the total property is about 10 lakh rupees, they will like to spend about 30 to 35% of that money from their own sources, you know, they borrow, they do whatever. So we thought that 5 lakh rupees will be sufficient, and that's how the whole trust was designed. But maybe now that will require revision, and in case you can bring it up to 10 lakh rupees, I think that will give a lot of assurance to the banks or to the financial institutes that initial capital has already been given to the trust, and that's also being managed by the National Housing Bank.
Okay, Sriram Mahadevan, do you find that, I mean, you have actual customers out there who are buying your homes. You've been selling homes launched in Bohisar, one market where you have launched affordable homes. Do you find that your customers struggles to get home loans?
No, not really. Actually, the good aspect is, I think, how, so far as financial inclusion part is concerned or availability of the finance is concerned, I think that particular ecosystem has developed over the last couple of years. In fact, if we analyze our set of customers, there would be around 30 to 35% of customers who belong to informal segment. When I say informal segment, obviously they don't have any documented income proof. And some of the profiles are the drivers who have taken loans, street vendors who have got loans and purchased our homes. And we have been very strict in actually not selling it to the investors, and we have been targeting end users, and we are feeling very much vindicated when these kind of customers have actually come forward and bought our home, and we have been able to actually tie it up with a 360-degree kind of a solution in terms of housing finance company.
But Sriram, are you doing this with outside housing finance companies, or is Mahindra doing that with its, its subsidiary financing companies? Now, that's another big question. You're a large group, you can have those tie-ups, but not everybody can do that.
No, Manisha, I wanted to break that myth. Yes, Mahindra does operate as a federation, but at the same time, it is not Mahindra Rural Home Finance who have got the maximum business out of a affordable housing venture.
Who are the guys who are giving the loans? We want to talk about them. We really want to highlight them, because I keep hearing everybody from HDFC to SBI, they're all concentrating on the top 5 or maybe 8% of the market.
Let me tell you, the new baby in the block is Jaya is not here, but it is VBSC's financing arm, which is HFFC, who are doing pretty well so far as our housing segments are, both the projects are concerned.
Okay.
Then we have also seen formal sector banks like Axis Bank taking a lead in terms of utilizing the priority sector lending, and they have come out with customized product for our projects, and it has done they have been able to do well so far.
Okay, fair enough. I think we have done quite a bit in the first segment. I think when we come back, where should these houses and flats be built is another big question that's always debated. How far outside of a main city can you go to actually make affordable homes? Will people really live there? There are people who've got great experience. We heard Mr. Garg say that he's building 30 kilometers away from where our studio in Delhi is. So we'll find out what are the challenges of building in the city, outside the city, and is affordable housing within the city ever possible or not? Stay with us.